In today's fast-moving pace, everything is changing with the economy, a lot of different dynamics going on. There's an opportunity for us to go from looking in the rear-view mirror about what has happened to looking through our windshield to see what's ahead. And when you layer that spiritual journey and being able to track how people are progressing on that with those same questions that we're asking, we start to get a fuller picture of what's possible and what we can predict for the future. And that's why the conversation we're having today is so important.
Before we talk about this important giving metric that many churches are not tracking, I want to start by asking, how are most churches measuring giving today, especially during economic uncertainty and seasons like summer when generosity often slows down?
That's a very good question. We get the pleasure of talking to a lot of pastors. We have almost 70,000 of them at GiveLify. And when we ask them this question, what we find very interesting is they often treat it like a thermometer. So they ask questions like, how much did we bring in this week? What's our monthly budget? Are we on track? It's okay to look at those metrics. But what we often find is those numbers tell a picture of the past. And in today's fast-moving pace, everything is changing with the economy, a lot of different dynamics going on. Yes, we want to understand what's going on in the past, but also want to understand and be able to predict what's going to come in the future. And for that, perhaps we can look at things like how businesses approach it. Now, I know we're a church and we're not a business, right? As a pastor, as a faith leader, as a member of the finance committee, we hold solemn to our duty to provide and guide people on their spiritual journey. That's our calling, right? And so there are things we can learn from businesses and how they measure things like this: customer retention, lifetime value. And those are indicators that help them not only understand what's happened in the past, but what can we count on in the future. If we take a lesson from those things, we can start to ask ourselves that question: how well are people developing spiritually and in their faith? And we know giving is a core tenet of faith. And so we've got to think about a way to measure how are people tracking on that core tenet of their faith. And when you layer that spiritual journey and being able to track how people are progressing on that with those same questions that we're asking, we start to get a fuller picture of what's possible and what we can predict for the future. And that's why the conversation we're having today is so important.
So, what is this important measure of giving health churches should be tracking, but often aren't?
We asked this question to a lot of pastors: what does consistent giving mean to you? And the answers were all over the place. Some said it's the number of people who are tithing. Others said, as long as people are given as they are led. And what we quickly figured out is there's no consistent definition to what consistent giving means. For a lot of pastors, consistent giving was being measured by the number of recurring givers they had. And that's beautiful and good. But we like to think about this like recurring giving is a tool. Consistent giving is a habit that's inspired by a lifestyle that is inspired by the teachings and the tenets of our faith. In our Giving and Faith report, we went to about 2,000 people who support their churches regularly, and we asked them, how often do you want to give to the church? 95% of them said, we want to do it at least once a month. Also, recently, another industry study came out, and in that study, it showed that only 23% of the people who support the church actually do give at least once a month. And that includes people who set up recurring giving. So 95% want to do it, 23% are doing it. There's a gap. And why is there a gap? Now, just like signing up for the gym does not guarantee that you're meeting your fitness goals, recurring giving does not guarantee that people are giving at the level of consistency that they aspire for.
So, what is this important metric?
Monthly consistent givers. It's the one metric that helps us understand who started on this journey and who's staying on that giving journey. And matter of fact, once we started looking at this number, we looked at about 40,000 people who support their churches regularly, and we started to notice some very important things. We're not going to talk about that right now, we've got another video that you have to check out where we found some really interesting things that resulted in people giving 9 more times per year. So, according to the study that I talked about earlier, monthly consistent givers tend to account for about 70 to as much as 80% of all the giving that comes in a year. So when you track monthly consistent giving, it gives you a deeper insight into the health of your church's finances. You get to understand who's showing up faithfully month after month. And you get to understand who you need to support to get to that cadence of giving as well. Monthly consistent giving is the heartbeat of sustained generosity. It's hard to budget and forecast based on one-time giving spikes or an unpredictable pattern of giving. But with monthly consistent giving, you understand who your reliable base of donors are and how to support everybody, no matter where they are on that journey.
So, Wally, what would you say to a pastor who wants to make more sense of their giving but doesn't consider themselves a numbers person?
Well, I'll say this. If you're asking questions like, how much did we bring in this week or this month? You're not alone. You're not alone. Now, there's an opportunity for us to go from looking in the rearview mirror about what has happened to looking through our windshield to see what's ahead. And the ability to be able to ask the question of how many of our members are giving faithfully month after month starts to unlock some very important insights for you that help you see what's ahead and what you can plan for and what the vision for your church is going to be like when you are able to predict what's coming in. So think in months, not moments. Of course, moments matter, but when we start to look at monthly consistent giving, we help people become that person that you're teaching and inspiring them to be during those moments. And you start to unlock insights that help you look at the road ahead. And by looking at monthly consistent giver, we can provide them the support and the empowerment that's required to be that faithful, consistent monthly giver that their heart desires to be.